Hello, kids. How have you been? Have you missed me? I'm back. Today's episode is going to be a little nostalgic. It's going to be a little bit autobiographical. I'll be right back. I've missed you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be right back. Cheers and good on you, boys and girls. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. You know how much I love you, how much I appreciate you. Do me a favor, share the show. Text. Wow, you guys are like really happy to see me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Do me a favor, share the show, text it out to a friend, share it to your social media. All applies. All is very much appreciated. Okay, enough with applause. Get out of here. Get out. Thank you for tuning in, though. I've missed you guys. I really have. Have you missed me?
No. 1,000 times.
1,000 times no. But thank you for tuning in. Today's show is going to be about when I was in a band. I kind of wanted to get a little nostalgic on this one. Think of like The Sandlot, like when they go back and kind of talk about that's where I wanted to be. So I get out of the Army, and during the Army, I took singing lessons because I always wanted to be like a singer in a band. It was like this fantasy I've always had. I thought that would be awesome. And so I get out of the Army, and a friend of mine's band, they were just kind of breaking up, like literally. And so I jumped right in, and we formed a band. We named it Funeral of Freaks. It was an awesome band. I was so happy to be in that band. And I tell you, you look at like a time in the life. I was in my early to mid 20s, just out of the Army. I was working in a machine shop, made like no money whatsoever. Like, I'll paint a picture. Like, I had a roommate, my best friend, and we lived together since we've known each other, I should say, since we were 2 years old. Like, we've known each other forever. I still know him. I saw him just 2 weeks ago, in fact. So like, I mean, that's a long time I've known this guy. And I get out of the Army, and we get an apartment together, and it was a party apartment, I'm not gonna lie. And I was so broke. Like, I was making no money, like almost nothing. I worked 40 hours a week in a machine shop. It was this terrible, nasty, dirty machine shop, making no money. And I remember even like saving up to buy a car. And it took me several months to buy this car. I saved up, I buy a car. It's a piece of garbage car. It was a manual, and I remember it didn't have the knob on it. So it was just like this stick, like literally like a stick. And if you didn't grab it right, you'd hurt your hand. And, I remember parking it in the garage of this apartment complex, and I think it was like for 2 months I couldn't drive it because I had to save up to afford insurance on the car. So I had a car, but it was parked, and just no money. I remember like our kitchen table was like a card table with like the card table chairs, you know, and dinner every night was like a frozen dinner, you know, a microwave dinner. But did we have beer money? That was the funny thing. Like, no money for basically anything. But, you know, and when I even try to think back of like, what did we eat for lunch? Like, almost nothing. Like, I don't know if we ate breakfast. I don't remember that. I do remember eating like once in a while, maybe going to McDonald's or something. But like, for the most part, it was like microwave dinners was our dinner. But again, beer money, that was so essential. But so I'm creating a picture of like, I was broke. Broke as broke could be. Poor is probably a better way to say it. Like, no money. But it was one of the happiest times of my life because our apartment was like the party apartment. Everyone came there to hang out, to party, you know, and good times, a lot of laughs, and just being in a band. And what I mean, the special time of being in a band, it was like a dream come true for me. Broke, no money, no, like, at that time in my life. And I didn't think, like, we were hoping, of course, to make it big, and we were going to be rich rock stars. There wasn't really a path to that other than we were making really good music. We practiced 3 times a week. we were tight. We were really good. We were really tight. We were spot on. We had a good following because, of course, everybody that partied at our apartment, which was in abundance, they would come to see us. But when you talk about being in a band and that close in a band, there was 5 members in the band. We had 2 guitarists, we had a bass player, we had me as a singer, and we had a drummer. We were brothers, and we saw each other all the time. Not only did we party together constantly, almost every single night, but then 3 times a week we would create, we would practice, and like, there's something about out of thin air creating a song together and like do that again and play that guitar part of again. I like that, or do that, and then the song's created, the music part is created. Now I've got to take and make lyrics to it. So I, record it and then go and then write lyrics and like this would fit in good here, or what's the song going to be about? Like I've always had a creative aspect of me and I like creating things. So like telling stories, I like doing that kind of thing. It was so inspiring just be a part of like a brotherhood, but also be a part of like the creative process of taking nothing out of thin air and created something out of it, making a story, making the song, and then having people like when we would perform, like I said, we practiced like 3 times a week. We would probably play 2 or 3 times a month. We would play parties, we would play bars, we would play these these small venues that would like have bands, and just being able, I remember calling even and booking our band, like calling a club and saying, hey, this is our band, this is, and then booking it, and then having our name out, Funeral Freaks, seeing it when you'd pull up. And how I came up with the name Funeral Freaks, I'll tell that story. Looking for a name of the band, and I remember I've always liked that name, Funeral of Freaks, something with freaks. But we were driving by a funeral home one time, and I remember we passed a funeral home and it said Funeral for Florence, and probably be her last name, but I just remember Funeral for Florence, and I was like, Funeral of Freaks, and then I just pieced it together, like Funeral of Freaks. I'm like, once I said it, it clicked. I was like, oh, that is so awesome, Funeral of Freaks. And in fact, I might name this episode Funeral of Freaks. I'm either gonna name it, which you'll know by now because you're listening to it, I'm either going to name it I Was in a Band, or I'll name it Funeral of Freaks, or maybe I'll name it I Was in a Band, Funeral of Freaks. Maybe that's what I'll call it. But regardless, it was the band name clicked. I loved it. And we had, for what we were and for what we were doing, we had a pretty big following. We were doing really good. We had a lot of people would show up at our shows. There was times where like we would just, if we played with 4 or 5 other bands, we would dominate. Like we would just, because we were so tight, we were so good, and I just remember that like being one of the happiest times of my life. Now I have recordings of our shows, like videotape recordings of our shows. I'll have to post them on here sometime, or at least one of the shows. And they'll be grainy and old video, but it was, again, like just so, if there was one show in particular, it was played at the Thirsty Whale, was the name of the place, and a lot of bands, like a lot of like signed bands passed through there, and we got to play in the main stage, the stage at the Thirsty Whale. And I just remember like that was one of the most exciting times of my life, and just playing that show in particular. And I remember getting out there and then like the large crowd, packed place, like we packed it, probably our best show. And I just remember the music jamming, and I get out there and I start doing this, and the whole crowd starts bouncing. And there's something about like when you create a song, you write a song, and then you hear like the crowd singing back, or singing with you, I should say, like singing your lyrics back to you as you're performing. So it was fun. The creative process of it was amazing. One of the most special times of my life. Like I loved it. I loved the brotherhood. I loved how we all got along. And then it's funny too, because now like you look at it and you fast forward, and this person in the band is looking this way politically, and that's a different way than I think, and this way, and then it's almost like, unfortunately, like strangers in a way now. And you kind of wish you could rewind where politics didn't matter. And it's not that there's no hatred. There's nothing like that, although that was the name of one of our songs, Hatred. Let's see if I can name some of the songs. We had Hatred, we had Parasite, Marionette, Justice, oh God, Split. That was a really good song. I like that one. VIP, which stood for Vampires in Paradise. I love being in that. I love being in that band. We even had a punk song called Psycho Bitch, which was different than what the other songs we had, but it was awesome. It was really good, actually. So I need to play some of these songs. I need to share some of these songs because I still have them. I have the recording that we made. Just even hearing that, like when you first get the recording back and you listen to it, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's a song that we all wrote together. And hearing it back and hearing myself singing, and unfortunately at the time, like it was more of like screaming because it was like a hard rock band, and so I wish I would have sang more as opposed to what I felt like at the time, more of like yelling into a microphone. But at the same time, it fit the music. It was good. It was there. I had long purple hair. Yes, I did. I had long purple hair at the time. But again, the Brotherhood, just it was such an amazing time. Like there was no cares in the world. There was no like, even though I was broke, we barely made our rent. I could barely afford insurance. I could barely afford food. Like I said, there was enough to party, but everything was fine. Like there wasn't really any stress, if you could imagine. Now it's the stress of paying the mortgage and paying the bills and responsibilities at a job, where that didn't really matter. It's like it felt weird. It felt weird to be that literally poor. I mean, I was poor. If you really think about it, I was poor. I was poor for several years, but I was happy. It was one of the happiest times of my life. Now, obviously, there's different phases of life. My happiness now is different. You know, now I'm happy to be married. I'm happy to be a father. I'm happy to have a beautiful daughter that I love and a beautiful wife that I love and have a home. But there's something about not being tied to those responsibilities, being poor, but not feeling poor. Like I didn't feel like I was poor, even though I was poor, because I had enough money to do what we needed to do. Which is odd, which is weird. I mean, if I look at like my paychecks now, not bragging, it's just the reality of it. When you're in your early 20s versus when you're a grown adult with a mortgage, and you look at like how much I actually brought home each month, and it's like, how in the world did I live off of that? And then think of like, look at your bills now, your mortgage payment, your car payments, your this and that and that and that. And then like, imagine the paycheck back then into now. It's like, there's no way, there's no possible way. So like I truly was poor. I mean, I was really, really poor, but I was happy. It's so odd. And I think a lot of it had to do being in a band, being with my friends, being not worried about the responsibilities that would later come, because the only focus was let's write some great songs. Let's record these songs. Let's try to get signed to a major record label. Let's just have fun. And all that other stuff, oddly enough, like all that other stuff's gonna come later, but you didn't think like that. You just thought you thought this party's gonna last forever. And you really did think like that. At least I did. And there was no future past early 20s. There was no 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s. There was just, we're here now. This is our life forever. You know, and again, then it starts to like, well, I got to start taking things a little bit more seriously here. But man, you talk about fun. You talk about just the creative process. I guess if I'm going to tie this into a moral of the story for this show, because I like to keep these shows motivational, create something, people. I'm still creating things. I'm still writing things. I'm a very creative, drawing and this and that. And I love to create things. And I tell you, man, if you want, one way to elevate your life and to advance your life is to have passion. One way to have passion is to create things. Even if it's just for yourself, if it's something you're not sharing, start a journal, write about your life, write about things. Sharing this is passionate to me because it takes me back to a time where I just can't imagine. Like I remember us going to concerts, and that was the most important thing. Like we couldn't wait until Saturday because this band is playing at Alpine Valley, and we're all gonna climb into 5 cars and we're gonna cram in. and like clowns in a car, and we're going to drive to this concert again. Like, how did we afford to even go to the concert? How did we afford to bring beer? And I don't remember having, like, how did we afford snacks, or if we did, or buy a t-shirt at the concert or this and that. But I just remember having the best times of our lives at these shows, at the shows that we had, and playing for people. And once in a while we would just say like, hey, so-and-so's having a party, they want to know if you guys want to play. Like, absolutely. And we would haul up all our equipment, go to this party, and all we would play for, not for money, but for free beer, and and meeting chicks and talking to girls. And it was just everything and the funny stories that tied into it, and did you see when this guy did this? And we had so many stories, so much fun, so many party stories. This guy passed out here. I'm not even saying I necessarily condone all of this. I don't drink now. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I did at the time, and it was fun, and we partied, and we were stupid, and we were young, and we were dumb, and there was no responsibilities, no thoughts of responsibility. It was just, let's have fun, and this party's gonna last forever, and in a way, like, it still has. The party's still going. It's just evolved. It's changed. I'm still having fun. I still love life. I think now it's more of, I just want to make people laugh. I want to make people smile. I want to inspire people, hopefully. So hopefully you like this story. Some of you that hear this may be like, I remember those times. I was there. I was front row watching you guys. I heard your songs. Someone told me not that long ago, they still listen to our recording and hear our songs. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I haven't heard them in a long time. I should listen to them. All right, people. So do me a favor. Like I said, it's been a while. I appreciate you guys for hanging in there. Share the show, text it out to a friend, share it to your social media. Listen, people, enjoy your life. We only got one. Enjoy your life and enjoy the process. And thank you for letting me share this nostalgic episode with you. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Daddy, Daddy, you're so awesome. Daddy, Daddy, you're so cool. Yeah! I love you, Daddy.